Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you again for joining me on this very special Lyme Boss podcast. I'm Heather Gray, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I know, say that 10 times fast, it's a mouthful. Also, the Lyme Boss. And so today I've got Jody Hudson on here, and the founder of the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation and the author of the Promise to Alex book. We're going to be talking about creating purpose through pain, which I laugh and joke tongue in cheek quite often because it took me 2 years after being in practice to actually specialize in the Lyme and mold world because, my gosh, have you met Lyme and mold people? Like, they're really complex. It can be hard to work with. And it took me a while to do that, but I had a Godsmack moment where I woke up in the middle of the night and was like, it's time. Like, God gave me this gift. I'm now on the other side of this. How can I not be a beacon of light for others out there with Lyme disease? Because I was kind of playing around with like weight loss and some autoimmune stuff, kind of simpler things. And then, so the last year I've been diving deep into the Lyme world and creating purpose through pain. Like, that is exactly what I did. And I just got off of another podcast saying the same thing. Like, I am a completely different person because of what I went through. Thank God. Like, I'm not so sure. Yeah, you wouldn't like me before because I just wasn't the greatest person. I was a bit of a party girl, a lot of childhood trauma. But anywho, without further ado, thank you, Miss Jody, for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I loved what you said about the beacon of light, because that's what I really try and talk about, is being that light, right? We have to be that light because there is so much darkness in the world.
So much. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? You are an angel in all senses of the ways. I mean, you just told me what your day job is, and that takes a special person in itself to do that line of work. I wanted to, and I couldn't because I'm just so sensitive. I'm so sensitive.
Well, retail was my background, and it wasn't until I had children in 93 and 95, my son and my daughter, that I switched gears and got involved in the nonprofit field. And so I worked at Catholic Charities for about 13, 15 years, worked at Girl Scouts for a couple of years. And now I have been working with the CASA program in the state of California. We oversee all 44 CASA programs. And it's really come 360 for me because I am a product of foster care. I was born to a single mother who put me up, in the foster care facility. And then I was adopted when I was close to about 6-7 months old. So it definitely speaks to my heart. So that is my paying job. That is my day job that pays the bills, right? I feel like we all have those multiple jobs. It's like the thing that you do that, does give you liberty to also do other things. And while I love what I do with CASA, I am absolutely driven by what I do with the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation. And that was formed in June of 2018, several months after my only daughter, Alex, at 22 years old, died from Lyme disease. And then if that wasn't enough, if my plate wasn't full enough, I decided, what the heck, it's a pandemic, everyone's writing books, I'm going to write a book too. Awesome. So I did that, self-published it last year in February, and proud to say that I've been doing very well with it. I just received a national award from the Christian Indie Book Awards this past weekend in the memoir category. And that really speaks so much to me because it's a religious-based, faith-based award, and I'm just really proud of that. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing.
I wish I had a sound machine right now because I would like hit it and like that's just amazing. That's amazing.
It's amazing when you align yourself with God and everything in the universe, what happens when you allow yourself to, experience different things and just go along for the journey and not being afraid to say yes to scary things. Good does come from it.
Absolutely. Can you actually go in a little bit more into your daughter's story and your background with Lyme and kind of experience with all that?
Yes. So Alex, in 5th grade, started developing the typical, joint pain, inflammation, all those things that we associate with Lyme disease. However, if one doesn't know about Lyme disease, we don't make the connection. And back in, gosh, that was, so 2017, that was probably like, let's say 2007, 2008, we weren't really talking about it. And she was an athlete from 6, 7 years old. She was a star soccer player, pitcher, track, you name it, cheer. She was doing everything. So the doctors just assumed that it was an overworked body from sports. So she would literally ace bandage up her knees, her ankles, pop herself with ibuprofen. And that's how she, was able to participate in sports. And then like in 6th grade, I remember it was just getting a lot more severe, but Alex was just so determined to keep playing sports that she played on through pain. In fact, that year in 6th grade, they normally have a boy and a girl athlete of the year. Well, that year it was 3 girls, no boys. The boys were silenced. It was 3 girls, and Alex was one of them. That was a student athlete of the year. So that's how amazing she was.
Wow.
And just as good as she was in sports, she was a scholar. She really studied hard. Her senior year in high school, she actually was awarded a full ride scholarship to UCLA. Unfortunately, things had just gotten worse in those couple of years in high school, where she was playing basketball her freshman year for Clovis North. And while she was dribbling the ball, she literally collapsed on the basketball court. Her knees were like swollen to grapefruits, and she was escorted off. We took her to a doctor. They did knee surgery on her. And from that point forward, she could never run again. So imagine being in high school and having everything ripped out from you. I mean, kids associate, their extracurricular activities with friends. She had no friends. Everything was just gone. So it was really a hard time for her. During that time, she also started developing digestive issues. And so now we have, this very pretty young gal starting to lose weight. And what do you think automatically people are saying? Oh, it's an eating disorder, Mrs. Hudson, right? So nothing was ever talked about again, with Lyme disease. I actually took her to an eating disorder clinic because that's what my doctors were telling me, right? There was nothing medically wrong with her. It's all in her head. So we did that for about a year or 2, and she just wasn't getting any better. She decided to defer her UCLA scholarship for 2 years and went to junior college to see if she could get a little bit better. And she wasn't. She was getting worse. Her weight was normally around 120. At this time, it was getting down to about 80, 90 pounds on a 5'6" frame.
Whoa.
We started going in and out of emergency hospital rooms on the weekends. She was having throat closure problems. She was, having heart palpitations. And again, it was stress, it was anxiety, it was she needs to be put on anti-anxiety medication. And Alex really fought that. And after about 40 some doctors, nobody again asking, if she'd been tested for Lyme, Alex on her own found a doctor down at Cedars-Sinai who thought outside of the box. He was a gastroenterologist, and she said, "Mom, I really have a good feeling about this doctor." And at that point, I'm like, sure, why not? What's one more doctor? So we packed up the car, went down to LA, and sat in this gentleman's office. And within the first 20 minutes, he asked me, "Mrs. Hudson, has anybody tested Alex for Lyme disease?" And that was in 2017. And I said, "Excuse me, what is Lyme disease?" And no, they haven't. So he tested her for it, and we got the results a couple of weeks later, and she tested positive for Lyme disease. So in that moment, Heather, it was like this bittersweet moment, because we had confirmation that this is not in her head. Like we could rest our hat on something, right? She has a diagnosis now. But then the other part was, what is Lyme disease and how am I supposed to treat my daughter?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I remember when I got my diagnosis after 28 years of being undiagnosed, 2 trips to the psych ward for suicide attempts, like all the things. And when I got my diagnosis, I was traveling on I-25 from Denver back to where I lived in Loveland, and I screamed at the top of my lungs, I told you I'm not crazy. And I need to publish my book as well. And that's going to be the title. I told you I'm not crazy, the realities of Lyme disease, because my whole flippin' life, I've been told I was crazy and on antipsychotics, antidepressants, mood stabilizers, like the whole 9 yards. And I have a passion of wanting to educate more therapists and people in the mental health world, because if somebody in my first suicide attempt when I was 15 would have even, and I was living in Missouri at the time, which is a pretty, Lyme epidemic type of area. If somebody would have just said back then at 15, how differently the rest of my life would have been. Right. But
Right. Yeah.
can't go there. But so, okay. So yeah, so continue. So you've got, then that's the other thing. So then you get your diagnosis and then you're kind of like, shit, now what?
So we get the diagnosis, but luckily enough, I had, with working with Catholic Charities, I had a lot of media contacts because I did fundraising, I did PR. And it's quite ironic that Alex got diagnosed in May, right? May is Lyme Disease Awareness Month. She got diagnosed in May, and KC24, an NBC affiliate, had just run a special on Lyme disease, and there was 3 women on there. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I need to contact KC24. I've got to find out who these 3 women are, because I need help. I need answers. I need somebody to guide me. And so I connected with one of the news anchors there. She gave me the information of these 3 women, and Lonnie Markham was one of the 3. And if you know anything about LymeDisease.org and Dorothy's organization, Lonnie Markham is their science writer. I mean, the perfect person to be connected with. And her daughter, Savannah, and they both are in my book, her daughter, Savannah, was about Alex's age. She also had Lyme disease. So how beautiful was that I had Lonnie and Alex had Savannah. And they literally helped us and guided us through those early months of just, doctors we should see. And when you get the test results back, because they're so confusing and nobody breaks it down for you, she was able to help me break all of that down. But unfortunately, because of 10 years being misdiagnosed, Lyme had already wreaked havoc in Alex's body. Her digestive system was shot. She had leaky gut syndrome. She wasn't able to process, many foods. She was down already to about 5 or 6 safe foods that she could eat. So her body couldn't get a leg up on it with all the different Lyme treatments. I mean, we were going, back and forth to the hospitals, just getting her on supportive IVs, just trying to, get nourishment in her body. And she also developed, which is very common with Lyme patients, Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. And that's a whole beast in itself. And I talk about that in the book as well. So from May of 2017 until she passed away in March of 2018, I spent over $100,000, single mom. I sold cars. I did everything that I could to save my child, but I just couldn't. And
sorry, go ahead.
And that's why I wrote this book, because I wanted people to know the journey that we went on, and I wanted people to appreciate how amazing Alex was, that despite all this pain, all this suffering, that she gave hope to others, even in her last moments. So it's a very powerful, powerful story.
I've been choking back tears this whole time because I know how it ends, right? Yeah. It's not very often that I know how it ends. And I've never had anybody on the show that has passed away from Lyme. And so please forgive my question, but we're trying to bring awareness in all shapes and forms. And did she take her life, or did she pass away from?
And that's, one of the things that most people, right when Alex had passed away, I didn't realize how common it was for people to take their life from Lyme disease, right? Alex did not take her own life. In fact, she never took 1 ounce of pain medication with all the suffering that she went through. And like I said, in the beginning, she was 5'6", 120 pounds when she started this journey. When she passed away, she weighed 57 pounds. Yeah, 57 pounds. And not once did she complain. Not once did she ask for even Tylenol. She wanted to be so strong and so present in her whole journey to the end. So it just amazed me. And that's why I knew that I had to get this story out, and for so many people to be touched by Alex's story throughout the country. I mean, I've sold, about 2,500 books now. I've got over 100, 5-star reviews on Amazon. People are just emailing me, reaching out to me. And it just does my heart good that Alex's story continues to live on much longer than, March 24th of 2018.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're not telling this story to have people lose hope. That's like not the point.
No, not at all.
There is hope. There's, lots of other stories. For the stories of Alex, there are other stories like myself that are on the other side, that did heal. I didn't have the weight loss problem. I definitely had the pain problem. I remember a massage therapist one time asking me what pain pills I was on. And I looked at her like I was crazy. I'm like, pain pills? Why would I be on pain pills? And she's like, because you are a rock. Like, I can't hardly touch you. How are you not taking anything? I'm like, I don't know. Like, Lyme folks, that's part of the reason why I have Wonder Woman in the background there. Like, it's.
Oh, I just realized that right now. Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
The pain tolerance that we get,
Yes.
it's insane.
Oh, it really is. And that's what, I didn't write the book for it to be a sad story. I wrote the book for hope and inspiration. And no matter what anyone is dealing with in their life, we all have different challenges that we have to overcome. And it's really just talking about perseverance and never giving up. And Alex never did give up. I mean, she really thought that she was going to beat this, and she wanted to start her own nonprofit and be that Lyme warrior. And so that's why the book is appropriately called My Promise to Alex, because I'm doing what she wanted to do, but I know in my heart we're still doing it together. Yeah. So
I'm all choked up. I know the minute you started talking at the very beginning, I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. But it's one that, like I said, it needs to be talked about. We can't just talk about the light all the time. There's also darkness. And then there's what we learn from both, right?
Yeah. Yep. And there's so many people that, in reaching out to me, I've been able to help their children. I've been able to help their, loved ones. I'm saving lives. And that's what Alex wanted to do. I mean, unfortunately, there was a reason, and we don't know that, right? It's only up to God when we move on. But there was a reason for all this to come together. And the fact that through this book, I'm saving lives and bringing that awareness about, it's what she would have wanted.
So tell us, what do you do at the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation?
So we started this, like I said, a couple of months after Alex had passed away. And my goal was really to raise money for research, and then also raise money for Lyme patients, because as we know, insurance doesn't pay crap for any of this stuff. Like I just told you, I spent over $100,000, trying to save Alex through different, facilities across the country and through, different treatments. So our whole goal is to raise money. And up till now, we've been able to help over 25 Lyme patients with financial grants. We also partnered with Global Lyme Alliance out of New York and did a $50,000 research grant with Alex's name attached to it. Before the pandemic broke out, we had a Tea for Alex fundraiser where we raised quite a bit of money. And I'm proud to say at our last fundraiser in Fresno, California, we had Tommy Hilfinger's daughter, who had Lyme disease and wrote a book. She came out as one of my keynote speakers. We also had Olivia and Holiday Goodrow with the Live Lyme Foundation. So the beauty of all of this is the camaraderie, the collaborations. I've been to other Lyme organizations events. They've been to mine. We all work together. Holiday Goodrow especially has been so incredibly kind and generous to me and to the foundation. And she co-chaired the tick-borne disease working group report that they spent 2 years on. It was just submitted to Congress a couple months ago. And I'm proud to say that Alex's story was included in that. So Alex will have, a permanent place in Washington, D.C., with her story. So it's amazing how her legacy just goes on. And that's what I try and do through the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation, to make sure I am building that lasting legacy, but that I'm also paying it forward and helping others. All the proceeds from my book go right back to the foundation. I don't make a dime off of it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing in honor of my daughter.
That's incredible. Yeah, Holiday is amazing. She lives about an hour away from where I'm at, and I actually was at a fundraiser at her place and met her about 7, 8, 9 months ago. She had the Bachelor there, and
yes,
yeah.
Yes, actually, I was supposed to be there. I'm going there in May for another event, and we'll talk later offline about that. But yes, she is a very important person in my life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I was so impressed with listening to Olivia's story and like everything that they're doing there. Absolutely incredible. And that's what's fascinating, because, like most diseases, they don't know party lines. They know no social status. They know, you all become one in this fight against this common monster, right?
Yes.
I think that's the beautiful thing about sadness like this, and bringing people together that normally wouldn't come together, right?
And it's funny that I didn't realize that you're in Colorado. Do you know Dr. Jill Carnahan?
I do. Actually, she'll be on my podcast in a couple weeks. I just ran into her at another conference a couple weeks ago.
So she's there's a whole chapter in my book about Dr. Jill and the visit that Alex and I had with her, and it was a beautiful, beautiful visit. In fact, it touched Dr. Jill so much that we are included in her new book now that just came out.
Nice. Yes, I just bought that. It's a beautiful book.
It's
all coming full circle. Yeah.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
Great minds too, and if you're in this world because you have a passion for it, and it's great that there are these kind of foundations, because I'm torn as a practitioner, right, of wanting to lower my costs so little, right, because I want to help everybody, but at the same time, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on my health journey and now my education, and so it's this really funny, awkward, weird place to be sometimes when it comes to financial stuff. And so I think it's awesome that there are foundations out there like yourself that are helping people out with these costs, because at the end of the day, I do believe that the practitioners deserve to get paid, right, what they need to get paid. Like,
absolutely.
It's heartbreaking. If I was independently wealthy, I would absolutely be doing this work for free. I'd be a part of a nonprofit, and that would be the help. But that's not my, especially after spending tens of thousands of dollars on my own health journey. Like, but so it's great that people can get help. What kind of, so like Live, the Live
Lyme Foundation. Yes.
They mostly help with children's expenses. So are yours around children or adults, or what's the parameters around?
Mine is no age limit. Yes. I mean, I go through a whole grant process, and like I said, award a couple of grants a year. Unfortunately, this pandemic has really created havoc with a lot of these, smaller foundations like mine. I haven't had a chance to resurrect the T for Alex fundraiser yet. So really, my main emphasis has just been on this book, and I've been doing a lot of speaking. I have been doing a lot of women's conferences. I've also been doing a lot of medical conferences. So when I do get paid for that, I mean, it all goes, back into the book and into the foundation. And that's really how I've been able to, provide financial grants to Lyme patients. But hopefully, I'll be able to start resurrecting the fundraisers again soon.
That's so amazing. I actually am getting paid and flown out to Sacramento this weekend to do my first speaking gig at a Lyme documentary premiere. So
Yes. Yes.
super excited to get started on that part of my journey. Like that's
Yes.
education, and the inspiration part of it is really what, fuels me. So I'm
Yes.
super excited to meet a like-minded. And it's funny, I've been taking a certain percentage, like tithing, right, out of what I make, and I've set it aside for charity. And I was noticing today that I had a little bit saved up, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder which charity I'm going to give this to. So after we get off here, I know where this one's going. So I'm super excited about it.
Thank you. Yes. And I know where you're going in Sacramento, and Melissa's wonderful. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So excited. So excited. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I've seen the documentary too. I'm talking about the quiet epidemic, phenomenal. I really am enjoying the newer documentaries that have come out, like The Monster Inside Me. Like that was so well done. And I actually got up and cheered at the end because she talked about her relapse because she went back to eating the old way and went back to living the old lifestyle. So many Lyme patients are kind of like cancer patients. They just want to like focus on the treatment, focus on the treatment. And that's like one of the educational things that I'm constantly putting out there is like, there's so much more to it, and you can't just focus on treatment. And I love that she brought that out in that documentary. And I love the different pieces that the quiet epidemic is brought out. So they're not as scary as like the first one was, oh geez, Under Our Remember that one? Like I thought that was a death sentence. Like I had gotten diagnosed and watched that one, and that one decimated me, to where the newer ones that are coming out, yes, they talk about some of the scarier dark side, but they also bring a lot of hope. So
yes, I remember when Alex got her diagnosis and we started watching that Under the Skin or Under Our Skin, whatever, I had to turn it off.
It was horrible.
It was horrifying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my kid was like 9 at the time, and I'm like uncontrollably ugly bawling, and she's bawling, and I was a mess. It was that was bad. But these ones these days I find are a lot more educational and inspiring, and not as deep and heavy.
Right. And Heather, that's really something that I try and talk on too when I'm doing different speeches and doing podcasts like this. We have to be so careful with one's emotional and mental state. Like I remember when Alex was first diagnosed and she went on Facebook, there's so many different support groups out there, and some are really good, but other ones, I mean, it's a slippery slope, right? And you can just go dark very fast. So I always, encourage people, just, stay above all of that, really make sure you're in a good, headspace, the gratitude books, all that stuff, even when you're going through such a horrific, Lyme treatment, there's always something we can be positive about. And I really believe that whole positive mindset can also help one heal.
110%, and having a strong faith.
Yes.
I do bioenergetic work with folks, and it is amazing that the people I run scans on that have a strong faith, I can see the difference in their scans to people who do not. And it amazes me every single time. Every time I look up at a scan, I'm like, wow, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I know it has a lot to do with their faith. And I mean, it's a huge part, because sometimes this gets so bad that it can be really hard to even find one thing that you're grateful for, right? And then that's when you have to lean on your faith and your belief of.
So the cover of my book has a bluebird on there, and that bluebird was very significant. So talking about faith, I mean, Alex, so much was taken away from her, but she could still read. I mean, she read like a book a day. I remember going to Barnes and Nobles on the weekends, and I would have a list. And God bless those sales clerks. They would help me, and they knew Alex, right? And they would help me find like new books for her. And then of course we'd always go into the religious section, but she devoured so many books. And of course, the Bible was her favorite. But every day at 3:00, this bluebird would appear outside in the courtyard in our fountain. And I noticed it a couple days in a row. And like on the fourth day, I went into Alex's room, my master bedroom. That's where she was staying. And I said, Alex, did you notice that bluebird that comes to the fountain there? She goes, yeah. She goes, it comes every day at 3:00. And I'm thinking, wow, that's so uncanny and strange. I said, what do you make of that? She goes, well, Mom, she goes, 3:00, that's when Jesus died. And she said, and I know that when I see that bluebird, it reminds me of him, but it also reminds me that, God is still watching out for me, and that every day I can see that bluebird, I know that I'm going to be here another day. And it was like this beautiful little, relationship that was being extended into this bluebird that she had with God. And it was like the visual things that we need to look for. And that's what I was saying earlier about the gratitude and looking for those little things. And if Alex hadn't been so cognizant of looking outside, she would have missed that bluebird. And how many times do we see things and we just are so busy in our every day to day that, God really like has to hit you upside the head and go, Heather, I'm trying to give you a sign here, right? And so when she was getting near, towards the end, I said, okay, Alex, I go, I have to have this bond with you still, like this mother-daughter bond that has always been so strong. I said, I know I'm going to, miss you, and I'm going to have to talk to you. Like, give me, like, what's the sign going to be? And we were kind of giggling, going back and forth. And she's like, Mom, the bluebird. I'm like, duh, the bluebird. And I swear I see bluebirds all the time. After Alex passed, I had my girlfriends calling me up saying, Jody, I haven't seen a bluebird in like years here in my backyard. And there's a bluebird outside of my window. So it's beautiful how she has just made sure that she is still reaching out to everybody and connecting with everybody and letting people know she's still here. I'm so sorry. I know it takes people, it's a beautiful story, and it's a sad story. It's a happy story. It's everything all in between. So I hope you have waterproof mascara on it.
I do not wear waterproof mascara because usually that's full of chemicals.
I know.
It's waterproof. So no, absolutely not. That would be against who I am as a person, but it's okay. I can look like Alice Cooper, and I can ugly cry, and it's all good.
No, you look beautiful, but I just had to share that because everyone's like, the cover is so interesting. So this is actually like my fountain that was in the courtyard, a picture of it, and then with the bluebird. So
that is absolutely beautiful. So Jody, I can't even say thank you enough. And I'm just so blessed and honored to know you and know your story, and continue to share your daughter's spirit, and that her story doesn't die with her, and that there is hope out there. And where can people find out more information and give to the foundation and find your book? And this is the shameless plug time.
The shameless plug time. So first of all, I would love for people to go to the website. It's www.alexhudsonlymefoundation.org. It has wonderful resources on there. It has links to, preventive measures with Lyme disease. It has just so much great information on there. It also has the Amazon link to the book, My Promise to Alex. And I really encourage, anybody listening to this to really pick up a copy. Mother's Day is right around the corner. It's a beautiful mother-daughter relationship story. It touches a little bit on my upbringing. It, obviously touches on my relationship with Alex. And then it just, gives people that hope and inspiration, no matter what they're going through, that, you know what, you can do it. You can persevere. And you don't need to be labeled and defined by that. Like I don't want to be labeled as the grief girl, right? I wanted to bring people joy. And I hope that that's what I'm able to do. And, telling Alex's story and sharing her faith journey and my faith journey, there's still joy amidst all of the, grief and sadness that goes on in our lives. And you just have to keep looking for the joy.
Absolutely. Amen. Couldn't have said it better than myself. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, make sure to have a healthy day and go check out the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation.org. Give what you can, get the book, and get inspired and get educated. Thanks again.
Thank you, Heather.